Hello everybody, welcome to the Redmond TV and my match reaction after we were beaten 2-1 by Manchester City at Anfield this afternoon in a wild, mad, bizarre, crazy game of football. Certainly second half and towards the end just turned into utter chaos, to be honest. But we'll get to that. Listen, Liverpool... I'm very, very reluctant to say it was a potential smash and grab. What it definitely was, it was utter, unadulterated joy to despair in the end. And it felt like we'd managed to navigate our way to an unlikely victory, I think it's fair to say, because first half we were so slow, really, really passive, struggled to string any sort of like semblance of passage of play together, really low pass completion rate, certainly in the final third, just never looked threatening, never got into any sort of rhythm or groove. And Man City, whilst not creating anything clear cut and not really posing a massive threat, were just better than us, and looked more cohesive, looked like an actual football team that understood the assignment and what it would have gone, what it was going to take to win a game of football of that magnitude, and the sort of game that, to be fair, for all our problems this season, which there have been plenty, we've tended to relish these sort of occasions and tended to rise to them. And in terms of like individual performances, we've tended to produce the best for these types of matches, and we won our battles, and we just looked a better, more competitive football team, and a football team that could well go on to achieve something maybe that has felt unrealistic at times. But again, for 45 minutes today, it was the opposite of that. And City, Guardiola seemed to have done a bit of a number on us in terms of team selection. I thought the midfield dynamic that he chose, I was a little bit surprised. I wondered whether he might have pepped himself, as he so often does, coming to Anfield, and he overthinks it, and generally in big games he tends to do that as well. And I did wonder whether, again, another trip to Anfield with all that is on it in terms of their title race hopes and the magnitude of the occasion, all that sort of stuff, I just wondered whether he might have done it again. But it looked as though he'd absolutely nailed it for 45 minutes, to be honest. And again, a couple of surprise inclusions from him. We'd gone with the same team, unsurprisingly, when you look at what we have at our disposal in terms of the respective benches. Like, theirs was absolutely stacked and ours was a little bit depleted, and with two keepers again. So it was always going to be a case of, can the lads out there get the job done with a little bit of help from Robbo, maybe Curtis Jones, and maybe a smattering of some youngsters and Federico Chiesa, and possibly even Wataru Endo. But it wasn't to be, although it very nearly was for a moment there. It just, real frustration and utter confusion towards the end. So obviously we take the lead through Dom Szoboszlai. Once again, like, we'll get to the negative around Szoboszlai in terms of what happened right at the death of the game, but he was unbelievable. To put in another performance like that at right back, like, he's been our best player this season, let's have it right. The fella is worth his weight in gold to us. And there's been loads of reports, loads of speculation this week about his contract demands and the fact that he reportedly wants 300 grand a week. And take it with a pinch of salt for what it's worth, because we don't know the ins and outs of exactly what he does want, the negotiations. It's all just speculation, it's all just hearsay. But what I can tell you is that man has been absolutely phenomenal for us this season, and the quality he possesses is it's a carbon copy almost of the Arsenal goal, the free kick from range, in terms of where it is on the footy pitch, but it's the other side. And the ball striking ability he's got, the technique is absolutely next level, like out of this world. Donnarumma doesn't move, like, he's got no chance with it. And again, it felt like that was the moment, that was the catalyst. Like, go on to win that game 1-0. And yes, we'll question the first half performance, but we can quickly forget about that and move on to the next one. We're keeping pace with those around us. Massively important that we would have done that, but it all fell apart. It all unravelled very, very quickly. And I think the game management got to come into question here, and maybe a little of the mentality and the mindset as well, because again, having stayed in it and then improved, the tempo was up in the second half. Anfield came alive in the second half. It felt like there was a couple of moments. Salah gets pulled back on the edge of the box, question marks around whether that was a red card, but we started to create stuff. We started to look more likely. Ekitike and Verts had a couple of nice moments. Verts had a shot from the edge of the area that was a very big opportunity, actually. Ekitike has to do better with a header. That is a clear-cut chance. Like, the goal's at his mercy, heads it wide. So again, second half, much a marked improvement from us, just in every sense of the word. We started to win those battles that I mentioned earlier on, but once we take the lead, we just retreat and we just become really negative, and we just give City license to come at us. And of course, they don't need a second invitation. They capitalise almost immediately. And it's, there's plenty of people I don't like scoring against Liverpool, but Bernardo Silva is right up there in amongst the least favourite people to score against us that I own in my mind. So yeah, that's a thing. And then, again, we never really respond to that happening. And I think because it's difficult to go from, defensive, have what we hold what we have, mindset to, okay, now we've got to try and win the game again. And it was must win in terms of, I don't think a draw would have suited any of us. But City are then in the ascendancy. City are the ones then on the front foot, and City then win a penalty. It's Alisson Becker. And listen, Alisson Becker's had a good game up until this point for me. There's one moment of madness where he comes rushing out and he decapitates Omar Mamouche. But then he goes down, he lunges in a little bit, he dives at the feet, and City play gets there first. And it's one of them because the ball goes out of play harmlessly, and you wonder, is Alisson really going to get punished for that? Because ultimately the actions kind of happened, and Alisson didn't really change the course of that action either. But lo and behold, ref gives a penalty, and lo and behold, Erling Haaland sticks the penalty away. And it's then us that need to act. Chiesa's come on, and we are sort of throwing cautions to wind at this point. Alisson Becker's basically playing in the halfway line. He comes up for a corner after McAllister had a shot tipped wide by Donnarumma. Good effort actually from McAllister, to be fair, who's really struggling. I think physically he's struggling more than anything else. It's interesting because he leaves everything out on the pitch every single time he steps onto the pitch of Liverpool, which I adore him for, because I expect nothing less than 100% commitment to the cause. And I think McAllister provides that. He leaves his heart out there, heart and soul out there. But some weeks recently, there's not much to leave out there. It feels like he's run on empty more often than not. But yeah, so that makes it really difficult out of possession for us to compete and match teams across the park. And yeah, anyway, they win a corner. No, sorry, we win a corner. Alisson Becker's up fit, and it's utter chaos. The ball breaks clear. There's a moment before the moment whereby they had like a relatively half chance to score from a mad distance, and instead it's almost like chipped down the way. I'm not a golf guy, but I know you sort of like get there in two, and it's like a get there in two for the goal. And Szoboszlai's chasing back, because obviously that's what he does. And he pulls Erling Haaland's shirt, and in hindsight, because he ends up scoring anyway, Haaland almost tugs back and carries on, and then the ball is kind of bundled into the net. So it's 3-1 momentarily, and you think, okay, salt in the wounds, another goal. But we've thrown caution to the wind. We've tried everything to try and get back on level terms, and understandably so at that point. But instead, it's not 3-1, and VAR's intervenes, got involved, and they've sent off Dom Szoboszlai. Now, in hindsight, you just say to Szoboszlai, just let him score, because the goal, Alisson's gone. Alisson is literally 40 yards up the pitch at this point. So you just think, well, let them score then. But Szoboszlai being Szoboszlai, not on his watch, isn't going to let that, or at least not going to try and let that happen anyway. But he's been sent off for, I can only assume, denying of a goal-scoring opportunity, which the ref has then played advantage for, and then they've then scored from. So unless they think the Haaland reaction and foul on Szoboszlai is enough to disallow the goal, I'm just trying to make this make sense in my head whilst sort of processing it, because it only happened like 5 minutes ago, a bit longer, but still. 2 minutes before I started recording this video anyway. So that, yeah, they must think Haaland fouled Szoboszlai, therefore they can't award the goal. Therefore they go back to the previous incident where he played advantage, and they sent Szoboszlai off. Glorious. I never agree with Gary Neville, but on comms, he said, just let the goal stand and we'll all get on with our lives. I'm inclined to agree. Instead, the goal's not been allowed, and Dom Szoboszlai's been sent off, and now he's suspended for Sunderland midweek. Glorious. Yeah, listen, there's loads to unpack from that, I'll be honest. I've only done 10 minutes, and I've barely scratched the surface that game of football. All I know is it's a defeat at Anfield at the hands of Man City, and I don't like that. A couple of positives that I'm sure will spring to mind at some point, but ultimately we are behind. We are trailing in this race for the top 4/5 to football.